It is about to go down for the San Antonio Spurs. The stretch run of the NBA, the playoff run of the NBA is about to be upon us, and the San Antonio Spurs have a lot of work to do, but work they can get done, and we are going to break all of it down here on Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment by hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss all the great daily content that Josh, Brian, and myself have coming for you. But let's get into it. The San Antonio Spurs, of course, it's the All-Star break. We had a great All-Star weekend. We were showcased on every day. Rising stars, we had Stephon Castle win MVP. Saturday, we had Stephon Castle come second in the dunk contest. We got disqualified on something that's crazy that Wemby apparently asked 5 or 6 people about. Chris Paul asked people about. We still got disqualified. That's another story for another day. But Stephon Castle making the showcase. He's playing on all 3 days. You don't do that too often as a rookie. And then on Sunday, clearly, we had Wemby and we had Stephon Castle in the All-Star game. One for the Rising Stars team, one on the international team. But together, the San Antonio Spurs are in a position where they had a tough stretch. Mitch Johnson even spoke on the tough stretch right before. We had a hellacious run. He was talking about the Christmas run when you go to Philly, then you go to New York, you had the Minnesota game, you had a tough run of games there, and then you have to go to Paris for a little bit of time, you have the rodeo road trip that they went on. It was a lot of moving pieces. They just traveled all over. There was not many games at home, and of course, we had the De'Aaron Fox trade, a massive, important trade for the San Antonio Spurs, but a lot of changing, moving pieces. You didn't get you have 5 games with De'Aaron Fox, and he is the second best player on your team now, coming in and trying to fit his way in there, not actually disperse from the Spurs culture in there. But he said, we've had a hellacious run. Everyone has a story. Everyone's season is long, but I hope everyone does what they need to do. And when they get back, it's ripping and running. So we hit the ground running and we're ready to go. Because they need to be ready to go with where they are in the standings. We're going to break down all of the San Antonio Spurs through the last 6 games, 5 of which were with De'Aaron Fox. That Grizzlies game withstanding from that. 1 point win, 1 point loss, 1 point loss, 10-point win, 13-point loss. That Boston game, we figured over the stretch it'd be tough. But the Magic game and the Charlotte game are 2 games we needed. Those 2 games would have put us in a much better position to play for the play-in and the playoffs. I know there's a lot of different feelings on if the Spurs should go for it, if they shouldn't go for it. But when you have a talent like this in Wemby, when you have a talent like De'Aaron Fox, you don't want to waste any years, because you could have a year like the Pelicans, who we're going to be seeing, where they have back-to-back games against the Pelicans here coming up within the next 10 that I'll break down here in a moment. It could have a season like them where you go into it and they're like, okay, we were the 7th seed last year. Zion had 40 points but then got injured against the Lakers. We didn't make the playoffs. But we've got Zion. We've got Brandon Ingram, we've got CJ McCollum, we just got DeJounte Murray. They're thinking to themselves, okay, we can be a top 4 to 5 seed in the Western Conference and really make some noise, and then a bunch of injuries happen. You don't know what's going to happen. You want to take advantage of every year that you possibly can get, especially when you have a supernova talent like Victor Wembanyama. But we're going to break down a little bit here. These are De'Aaron Fox's stats since he's been a San Antonio Spur. 22 points, 8 assists, 2 steals, 3 rebounds, shooting 50% from the floor, 28.5 about from 3. So that 3 number needs to go up. And there's going to be a theme that you see with the San Antonio Spurs. In their wins, they shoot great from the 3-point line. In losses, they shoot bad. And in the wins, their point totals are high. In losses, their point totals are low. And it's vice versa. When we're not shooting the 3 ball, we lose. Because then teams, those long rebounds, and teams get out in transition. Our transition defense has not been great this season. We are great when we are in the stance that when the other team has to take the ball out of the basket, then they bring the ball down, and we have a time to set. Because that gets Wemby to be in the paint, and that just changes the entire complexion of the offensive possession for whatever team we're playing. And then we've got guys who can set up. Stephon Castle can get after you. We've got, obviously, Harrison Barnes, solid defender. De'Aaron Fox is a good defender. Devin Vassell doesn't get too out of position when you're in that kind of scenario. And if he does, you have a guy like Wemby in the back line. That's why the three-point shot for this team specifically is so important. It's obviously the NBA now. The three-point line is so pivotal. But with this team specifically, if we're not shooting threes at a high level, we are not winning games. And that is obviously something that we need to do very well. De'Aaron Fox has been playing well. This is Stephon Castle as a starter this season. This is something that Mitch Johnson needs to change, and I know it's something that a lot of us have been calling for. Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox should always be on the floor at some point, but Stephon Castle needs to start. He keeps showcasing on the biggest stages, doesn't matter where. The dunk contest is a massive stage, regardless of how people feel about it. He's going back and forth with Mac McClung. Both of his dunks are great. And I understand his dunking, that's not basketball, but still it's a big stage and he's showing improving. Rising Stars MVP, he's showing improving. Every time he is starting, he's playing. He's been playing some of the best basketball of the season towards the end of this break, right before the break. He needs to start. It's just that plain and simple. He arguably is already the third best player on our team. He's definitely the third to second most talented player on our team, depending if you feel he's better than Devin Vassell right now or not. But he's contributing at a very high level. And then this is Victor Wembanyama. These are the three keys for this second half for us to get into a position where we could be in the play-in and then possibly make the playoffs. Wemby, 21-12. Hasn't been shooting the greatest since De'Aaron Fox has been there, especially from the three-point line. And I think it's just figuring out how the offense is going to move. Because before this, Victor Wembanyama was playing pretty high-level basketball, especially in the month of December. That was his best months of his career. But it's just, there's a lot of moving pieces right now, and the Spurs have to deal with that. And this is in their wins and losses. Sorry if it's hard for you to see because it is obviously a smaller bar. But this is their wins and losses. In their 23 wins, they're shooting 49% from the floor, 38% from three, and they're plus 12. In their losses, they're shooting only 44% from the floor, 32% from three. They just aren't hitting their threes. And it's not a fact of taking attempts. They take about the same amount every game. If they go in, we're winning. If they don't go in, we're losing. And then on the vice versa on the other side, opponent. When we defend the three-point line, when teams are only shooting 32% against us from the three-point line, we're winning games. They're shooting 39% in losses. It's just guard the three. Guard it and shoot it. And that's a lot of teams in this league, of course. A lot of teams are three-point oriented for the most part. But we have the interior, because when we're shooting threes, that's what opens up the lane. That's when De'Aaron Fox can get downhill. Stephon Castle can get downhill. The pick and roll between Wemby and Chris Paul is lethal. Harrison Barnes can even get in the post a little bit. Keldon Johnson can get downhill and not just only resort to three-point shots. This is where this team can get out, get moving. This three-point line is key. Getting hot, but making sure we're taking the good ones. Sometimes Wemby will rush into one. Sometimes when teams are going on runs, we think that we have to stop it with a three. We're not Steph. We're not Steph Curry where we have to stop. We don't need to stop things with a three. Those are the times we need to get inside and get to the basket. Wemby needs to get to the blocks. But when we can, get out in transition, push the pace. This team is great with pace, and we got a guy who is maybe the best in the league, or if not one of the best in the league in transition and with pace. But we're looking right now. It is 23-29 on the season. We are 3.5 games back from the 10th seed, the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are poised with Jimmy Butler. They could head up and they could usurp a lot of teams there. The Sacramento Kings are going to be interesting. Obviously, they have a lot of changes. They still feel like they can play, but that is a team that I think that we have the ability to beat and play well with. The Phoenix Suns have been a mess. I think this is the last time we're going to see Kevin Durant in a Suns uniform. It's going to be interesting to see what their prospect is moving forward. They're so up and down. And the Mavericks, can they stay healthy? Anthony Davis already missing time. Kyrie has been pretty healthy over the last couple seasons, but he has missed time. We obviously know Klay's injury history over the last 5 years has not been great. So Can they stay healthy? They're an older team, but when they're healthy and they're right, they can play. It's going to be tough to get in to that 6-10. We don't know what the Clippers are going to look like because we don't know injury-wise, are they going to be able to compete or not. It's going to be just, we need to win games. We need to get to 44-38. That's what I thought we would be before the season, and we have an opportunity to get there. That would be going 21-9 over this last stretch of games, and we have the team to do so. But we break it down here, the next 10. We've got the Suns tomorrow. Brian's going to be doing a pregame on that, talking about how important that Suns matchup is. And obviously for seeding, as we just saw, it's important. That Pistons team, they're the 6th seed in the East right now. That's a game that we're going to have to play tough, play hard, but we are at home for those 2 games, so we get to stay home and get comfortable. Then we got a back-to-back on the road with the New Orleans Pelicans. Games that we can win. That Rockets game, they have been reeling over the last couple weeks. Obviously, we don't know what they're going to look like coming out of the break, but that's going to be a big one. Then we got the Grizzlies, the Thunder. Those are 3 stretch. That's a 3-game stretch that's going to be tough. We got the Nets. We've got to win that one. The Kings is a must-win, and the Timberwolves is close to a must-win. We have the opportunity over the next 10 games to make a lot of ground. We beat Phoenix, we beat the Kings, we beat the Timberwolves, all in tough games, and we take care of the teams like the Pelicans, the Nets, and the Pelicans and the Nets. We get to 7-3 over this next 10. That gets us to about close to 500, and we'll see where we land there, especially if we're beating all of these teams here. But the San Antonio Spurs are in a position to where they can be the hunt. They can hunt. They can go. No one wants to really see this team because no one wants to see a guy who is a top 10 player in the league definitively, a guard who is clearly a top 8 point guard in the league, a rising star in Stephon Castle, and role players that complement all of their styles very well. We have the ability and the capabilities of getting into the play-in. I believe that we will. It starts with Phoenix on tomorrow on Thursday, and Brian's going to break that down great tomorrow. Cannot wait to see what he has to say about that game. But let me know what you guys think about the Spurs' future. Do you think they can make the play-in, the playoffs? How do you feel like the season's going to play out? This has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I will be seeing all of you guys very soon.